it is expected that over 7,000 participate. Over so many people at home due of climate change. To save electricity all over the mark the 13th. Lights out across the world to mark the 13th annual Earth Hour. Cities all over the globe went dark for 1 hour on Saturday to save electricity and draw attention to the issue of climate change. And with so many people at home during the pandemic, it is expected that over 7,000 cities were going to participate. Now, the coronavirus crisis has helped one thing, and that is the environment. As people stay home, the planes aren't flying, the air quality is improving. New images from the European Space Agency show a sharp decline in pollution over several major cities. As Bill Weir reports, this pandemic is a stark reminder of just how important it is to heed warnings from the experts.
Hello, Earth lovers. Bill Weir, CNN, from a very surreal Brooklyn, where for some reason I can't stop thinking about all the disaster movies that start with someone in power ignoring a scientist.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
That's just one of the parallels between coronavirus and the climate crisis.
You only have 11 years to live, folks, 11 years, because climate change is just coming up on us so fast.
Think about it. Both kill the most vulnerable and will cost trillions. Both will reveal heroic first responders and scientists and inspiring neighbors, as well as deplorable hoarders, grifters, and profiteers. And both are reminders that life as we know it depends on predictable flights and growing seasons and supply chains. But what if the age of predictability is over? Which brings us to the main difference between coronavirus and climate change: fear. Exhibit A, Jane's Carousel here in Brooklyn. The last time it was this deserted and depressing was after Superstorm Sandy. And between the melting ice caps and sea level rise, there is no scientific doubt my neighborhood is going back underwater. But invisible carbon dioxide molecules cannot shut down a carousel or a city or a world the way an invisible virus can, because we think we have time. Time waters down fear. But if we could go back in time, just a few months, wouldn't we take science a lot more seriously? Wouldn't we know that the countries that wait for their people to start dying before acting suffer the worst? And the countries with the most transparency, decisive leadership, and mutual trust fare the best? Wouldn't we know the importance of flattening the curve? You've probably seen this by now, right? This represents time. This is the number of patients in the dotted line. It's our hospital capacity. A sudden pandemic spike crashed the system, but with enough smart leadership and mass cooperation, we can flatten the curve. And guess what? This works with climate too. Miami is trying to flatten the curve of sea level rise by spending millions on higher streets and bigger pumps. California is trying to flatten their curve with new wildfire regulations and insurance laws. But so much of humanity still thinks about the climate crisis the way a spring breaker thinks about coronavirus.
We get no school and we can do whatever we want.
Since the global fossil fuel economy slowed down, you can see the cleaner air from space. And in just a few weeks, China conserved about half as much heat-trapping pollution as Australia or the United Kingdom burns in a year. Mother Earth can bounce back if we let her. And it shouldn't take a global pandemic and recession first. Just more smart science, more smart leadership, and a sense that we're all in this together. Something to think about the next time you wash your hands for 20 seconds to save people you will never meet and life as we know it. Bill Weir, CNN, New York.
Daniel Kamen is with us to discuss this further. He's a professor of energy at the University of California, Berkeley. Great to have you on, Professor. This has been, it's quite staggering and unintended consequences, but what does it tell us?
Well, it shows how quickly we can change our system. We've seen 30 to 40% drops in pollution over many of the world's cities. And it also shows us how quickly we could switch to clean energy if we took climate change as seriously as coronavirus.
Are you surprised? I mean, you're probably not, but I mean, I'm a little surprised at how big the changes are. You know, as you say, you know, 30, 40%. In some parts of Europe, the pollutants in Italy, in one area of Italy, slashed by a half. I mean, it is massive.
It is massive, but it also shows us that actions do matter. Our individual decisions, whether we take an extra trip, whether we just drive to go get one thing at the store or come back, those actions all add up. And when we scale it up to industry and to countries and regions, it really shows us that if we put our mind to it and if we invested in science, we could not only do a far better job on climate change, but we could also do it in a much more equitable way than we're doing now.
That's a very good point. And, you know, a lot of people point out in these days of, you know, Amazon and so on, ordering that one little package, that's got a carbon footprint by the time it gets to you. I'm curious about other lessons learned. And the fear, of course, you know, when this is all over, does that pollution just return? I mean, when it passes, could it be even worse in a way? Because you're going to have nations like China actually ramping up on production to catch up on lost time. Or do you think changes can be sustainable going forward?
Well, you're absolutely right. We saw that before. After 9/11, we saw a great diminution, and then we saw a bounce back, a more aggressive overconsumption afterwards. But climate is a battle we're going to be fighting for not years, but decades. And so the real question is, can we learn the positive lessons out of this horrible experience with coronavirus and say, we want to switch to clean energy now. It's cheaper in many places, and we want to invest in better systems so that low-income communities can actually generate their own power, make themselves more resilient. And we're not doing that with coronavirus today by denying some of the poorest communities testing and respirators, and we're doing the same thing on climate. So we're making a natural disaster into a social disaster when we have all the tools to make this into a chance to really build a green stimulus.
A great point. I mean, I've seen a lot of people also make the point that you know, wouldn't it be nice if the world reacted to climate change, the threat from climate change, with the same sense of urgency as we're reacting to coronavirus? Because climate change can and will cause more deaths and have more impact ultimately going forward. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, we're already seeing in China a plan to ramp up coal production right when they've become the leader in solar and wind production technologies as a way to fight the economic downturn. And that's the wrong lesson. The right lesson is that we've got these technologies ready to go. We should be deploying them now, because if we think that the coronavirus came on quick, as we've seen from the wildfires and we've seen from some of the hurricanes and other disasters, climate change will overwhelm our systems. Investing now, believing in the science, and then acting on the science, that's really our best defense.
Well, with all the uncertainty and anxiety in the world over the coronavirus, a moment of zen for you now. Going to show you some puppies from the Atlanta Humane Society having a run in the, of course, closed Georgia Aquarium. The pups had a blast making friends with the fish, zooming through the empty attractions and getting out of the doghouse for the day. Something we all look forward to one day. A lot of puppies are being adopted at the moment, by the way. People stuck at home, going down to the shelter, pick up a pup and give it its home. Thanks for watching CNN Newsroom, everyone. I'm Michael Holmes. Do stay with us. The news continues with Anna Corrin after a quick break. I'll see you tomorrow.
It just proves all the more that climate change is real. It's not some fictitious ideology. It's not somebody wanting to get rich off of a scheme. Climate change is real. And if we care anything about the love and the care of this planet, if we care anything about the future for our children and our children's children, we're going to have to stop and reinvent in how we travel, how we communicate, how we order stuff on Amazon, and what we're doing to this climate. Please, please, from one puppy to another, please, let's take this stuff serious. If you really think about it, the planet Earth is an aquarium. An aquarium that we're all living in. Similar towards a fish that lives inside a bubble filled full of water. And if the water becomes contaminated, then not just one fish begins to die, but all the fish begin to die. You have to think of the planet in the same way that you think of an aquarium. A round bubble, that our bubble that we're in is a bubble of oxygen, air, opportunity in space. But if that air and opportunity of space becomes contaminated enough, then you no longer see the pleasurable events like you're seeing right now pertaining to two little puppies that are just absolutely amazed towards trying to figure out how in the world are those fish swimming around and they're not wet. Those inquisitive little minds knows that something that they're looking at is beyond them. And their expressions on their face is what is radiating to our own consciousness pertaining to, wow, check this out, buddy. Have you ever seen so many things floating around? Of course, you can only imagine what's going on in the little puppy's mind. But it's the same difference as us being entombed in the same aquarium of the planet that we all live on and live in. And if that aquarium becomes bad, then we don't have the good times. We don't have the precious moments. We don't have the things that we took advantage of. Because now, instead of one puppy getting sick, all the puppies get sick. So it's time that we did look at the environmental changes that man is creating up onto this planet, regardless whether it be a steel mill, a coal mill, regardless whether it be how many boxes that we order from Amazon that leaves a carbon footprint, or whatever, how many trips that we can afford to travel, or basically stay at home and just communicate online. We have to take global warming serious, folks. We have to. If not, it will be catastrophe for all of us, for each and every one of us. Please, please take this message to as many people as you can and tell them that right now with aviation being grounded, we are seeing the effects of reversing global warming such as we have never seen before. So it's time, because we got the proof. The proof is in the pudding. We got the proof about the climate crisis. It's time that we reinvent our airplanes, our thoughts and how we do things, why we do what we do towards taking care of Mother Earth. Whenever you see the facts right in front of you of the carbon footprint that has been dissolved right in front of our very eyes, of some places like they was talking about in Spain, up to 50%. 50% gone just within a matter of 2 months because of the downplay of aviation. That should be enough to wake up any country, no matter where you're at, no matter what continent that you're on, and say, you know what? Maybe it is time that we done something pertaining to climate crisis change in what we're doing to the world. Thanks again for your time. Good luck to all of us as we put out this, hopefully, a more inspiring message that if there is any silver lining to this corona pandemic, it would be in waking up societies all over the world pertaining to the apparent climate crisis. Thanks again, coming from the Windmill Ministries here at 291 Thompson Road. And as we say, and we'll continue to say, shalom, and good luck to all of us. God bless.